Greetings, Philosophy 107 students, philosophy literature. So, today we are talking about Friedrich Nietzsche's The Birth of Tragedy. And The Birth of Tragedy is, to put it mildly, a controversial work because in that work, Nietzsche takes received notions of what the Greeks added tragedies, it's known, right? Uh, he takes received notions of what the Greeks were up to when they wrote tragedies, and and turns it on its head, so to speak. On Nietzsche's view, right, um, the Greek tragedians, right, were were highlighting a divide, a rift, if you will, in Greek society, a rift that was best characterized, in his view, between the two Greek gods of art. And the two Greek gods of art were um, Dionysus, the Greek god of frenzy, represented in Rome as Bacchus. So if you ever hear the adjective bacchanalian, right, that's what it's referring to. So Dionysus was the god of frenzy and lust and sexual appetites, right? As contrasted with Apollo, who was the Greek god of the sun and of order, reason, right? Um, so what Nietzsche is really doing here is making an analogy between two aspects of humanity that philosophers have always endlessly debated about, and traditionally philosophers have emphasized the what Nietzsche calls Apollonian reason over the Dionysian, which is to say the emotional, right? Um, a complete human being, in Nietzsche's view, and I think he's right about this, uh, exhibits elements of both, right? It's not healthy for human beings to be completely rational and suppress their emotions, as modern psychological research bears out. But by the same token, we can't be entirely Dionysian and ignore reason. So, Greek tragedy was a way of reconciling, if you will, or perhaps calling a momentary truce between the Apollonian and Dionysian, right? And in this respect, I think Nietzsche, and I'm going to make this advance a rather bold hypothesis here, uh, is an early advocate of what is now known in aesthetics as aesthetic cognitivism. For those of you who have taken Philosophy 66 with me, you'll know that I talk quite a bit about aesthetic cognitivism in that course. So, what's aesthetic cognitivism? Aesthetic cognitivism is the view that it is not just the sciences, and in particular the natural sciences, that teaches humanity about external reality, about the world, right, about ourselves, but rather that we can gain insights into both reality and the human condition from art, right? And this view is really controversial because scientists, like anyone else, they tend to turf guard, right? And they don't want the arts pushing into the realms of science and claiming that human beings can learn things from the arts. And this notion is just simply anathema, right? But consider what Nietzsche says, and we're going to skip ahead here to the end of the article. This is page 35, right? He's talking about Socrates in prison, and Socrates received a vision and a dream that before he died he should practice music, right? And why is this significant? Because on Nietzsche's reading of Socrates and Plato, right, and there's some merit in this, right? Plato was disdainful of the arts, right? Um, this world is a bad copy of a perfect world, a transcendent world, a realm of forms, and art is a bad copy of this world. So we're two steps removed from reality when we engage in art, right? So that's one reason Plato didn't like art. The second reason Plato didn't like art, and you guys will remember this from the article about Plato and Mimesis, is that art elevates the emotional, whereas on Plato's view, we should be elevating the rational, right? But again, toward the end of his life, staring down his execution, Socrates gets sees a vision in a dream, right? The gods tell him to focus, make music, right? Practice music. And so Nietzsche writes, perhaps thus Socrates must have asked himself, what is not intelligible to me is not necessarily unintelligent. Perhaps there's a realm of wisdom from which the logician is exiled. Perhaps art is even a necessary correlative of and supplement for science. I mean, that's certainly, on my view, a statement of aesthetic cognitivism, right? Um, but the long and short of it for Nietzsche is this, right? Modern industrial scientific society has, in his view, elevated the Apollonian uh, elements of society, reason over the emotions, and we've been taught to suppress our emotions, right? But again, for Nietzsche, in order to be complete, we have to find a way to strike a balance between the Apollonian and the Dionysian, and that's what he's getting at here in the birth of tragedy, right? On Nietzsche's view, sadly, the teachings of Socrates and Plato killed that great tradition of Greek tragedy. Although he does note toward the end of this particular piece that he saw signs of the decline of Greek tragedy, even in the works, the plays of Sophocles. But um, still, there's hope there, Nietzsche thinks, for reconciliation of the Apollonian Dionysian, insofar as even Socrates, toward the end of his life, seemed to acknowledge that art was valuable. Again, and I take that to be a statement of aesthetic cognitivism.